Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Derrk Johnson in the house. So please, everybody, you know how it kind of goes with Derrk. We'll try to get some questions, but he does a pretty good presentation, and throughout the presentation, he does answer some questions. So if you want to try to write a comment, or excuse me, a question underneath the Revival of America logo on the wall, you are welcome to do that. I can't promise you we'll get to the questions, but we certainly will try. So hang in there, buddy. That's just kind of how we do it here with Derrk Johnson. So, also, to everybody, please be careful who you listen to, who you follow, and what you are putting into your mind because it is a scary, very dangerous thing that's going on out there with this misinformation, disinformation, black pilling, doom and gloom, fear mongering. Stay out of the noise, everybody, because we are winning, winning, winning. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening, but we are winning. So, take those big, small, medium wins, whatever it may be. Hang on to the positive, everybody. Stay in that positive mindset because you can, if your mind isn't prepared for this, then you can get slided very easy and find yourself on the other side of this show that we're watching, this craziness that we're watching, everybody. So please be careful who you're listening to, who you're following, and what you're putting into your mind. Also, to everybody, if you come into the podcast late or you'd like to have friends or family listen to some of these guests that we bring on, you can follow the podcast hosts or the social medias, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. We are being listened to in over 100 countries, everybody. So we are making some noise. Also, too, the social medias all of them are verified except for three, and those three are YouTube, uh, True Social, and TikTok, excuse me, because they're taking a little bit longer than the other ones to get verified. But I'm getting them verified for you guys to know that these are my legitimate accounts because there are trolls and scammers out there. So know that myself or any of us that of my guests that come on here will not randomly reach out to you and ask you if you're ready for the scare event or anything like that. So please block them, report them, let us know so we can make sure they're not here in my channel. And the social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny_Dreed X, at JDreed Rumble, at JDreed True Social, at JDreed Instagram, The Revival of America right here on Telegram, The Revival of America on YouTube. And then last but certainly not least, TikTok is at the official JDreed. I'm trying to put more content up there, everybody, but I honestly kind of forget about that app. No pun intended or anything. I just honestly forget about it. So I'm trying my best, but I'm a one man show over here. So, also, to everybody, if you have a story or a journey to tell, please reach out to me at the Revival of America at yahoo.com. We'll get your story, we'll get your voices heard, and we will get your story on the podcast. Because remember, everybody, your voice, your journey is going to help shape this new world that we are walking into. And last but certainly not least, please sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter gives you updated information on the latest podcast, as well as the weekly show lineup with the guests and the times. So please sign up for that. Again, it is free, and that is at the revivalofamerica.com. And we typically send those out on Sundays. I wasn't able to get it the last couple Sundays because, as many of you know, I've been in the process of a move. So I'm finally tightening that up over here and getting back a little bit to normal. So bear with me, everybody. If you hear a bit of an echo in the background, it's because I don't really have a lot of things up on the wall right now. So I apologize for that in advance. So with that, everybody, please sit back. We'll wait for Mr. Derrk Johnson to come in. I'm going to see if he has entered the room. And yeah, we'll get started as soon as he gets in here. And just, hang in there. I'll try to get some questions in for you. So if you want to write them on the board, they'll be there if we can get to that point of this podcast. Also, to everybody, this Wednesday, we will have our regular scheduled program with Silk. She will be on over my X Space at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Alpha Warrior will be coming on at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so that's for Wednesday. And I'm hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to do anything for Friday. It is my birthday weekend. So Monday shows will be pushed to Wednesday next week. So if we have another one, I'm trying to get Josh on from Red Pill. He's been on before. He's very intelligent, gives a different perspective of what's going on. Great information. I'm trying to get him on Wednesday, and then also too trying to get Ripple Duck back on. So I'll keep you guys posted on those as well as 107. But we all know with 107 sometimes that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. But we still try over here. I still try over here. So hang in there, everybody. We'll get started shortly. Just waiting for Derrk, and we'll get started. In the meantime, if any of you have a question for me, myself, and I, please let me know, and I will unmute your mic and we can chit chat a little bit before Derrk gets here. Oh, there he is. Derrk, I see you. Hello. Your mic's unmuted.
Oh, I'm here.
What's up? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's just getting hot in the south, and all the mosquitoes are coming out. All the snakes are crawling. So, yep.
Oh, tell me about it. The South. I feel you on that. Here in Arizona, the heat is just horrible. But you guys get that humidity, don't you? We have the dry heat. You get the humidity, don't you?
Yeah, but at least with humidity, you know when you're hot. Out there, you don't know it, and then you end up being cocky, and then you end up having ice packs on your head, like I did last time I was there.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot. Well, sorry about last Monday. I just thought I was supposed to have internet. The guys told me on Friday I would have it, just plug and go. I didn't have to have the technician come out. Well, I wound up having to have a technician come out. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad to have you back here on this Monday morning. A lot of stuff is going on. I watched your couple things I watched with you. You had a roundtable with a few people, Jaco, Colonel Bosi, General, can't remember his name, but great podcast, by the way. And then Saturday, you did a 3 hour long Facebook thing on your Facebook, and that was great information as well. So I don't know if you want to touch on any of that to begin with, or, there's a lot going on right now with the Pope dying. We have Klaus Schwab stepping down at 88 years old. So we got a lot of 88s going on here in the world right now. And then the stock market, man, that's taking a little bit of a dive. What do you think? What do you think we're gonna see? People are talking about the 10 days of darkness. What do you think?
Yeah, I think still where most people need to be, or and that's just my opinion. But um, when I look at 2.5 years ago when I flung on to the scene, according to the viewers out there, well, I was already doing this long time ago, and a lot of people were, a lot of people that were either prior service or whatever it could be, and or in your communities, whatever, people who knew the Constitution, knew the Declaration, knew the foundation. I think that where I am still with people is trying to bridge that gap of there's a lot of people who are awake fully, and then there's so many who are just so lost and want to be in the know, and the people who are fully in the know can't explain it like I can. And I don't mean that meaning like, oh, look at me, but those are the people that matter. And that's also that warrior mentality again, that if you want to be in this fight, then you got to kind of take the warrior ethos of the army that says, I will never leave a fallen comrade. And so there's still so many people over here in this is the Telegram is not your mainstream channel. And Facebook's kind of getting left behind. Instagram is one of the hottest ones out there, but it's photos and videos only. So it's like people getting information still are shying away from reading and studying and having it in your mind and your heart. And the Bible even talks about that. Now, I'm not Billy Graham, and I'm not John Hagee, and I'm not all these big preachers, but I know enough of the Bible to know that it tells you to keep these words in your heart, because you may need them someday and you may not have that book. So it's the same thing with what President Trump's working with. And a lot of the comments I still see, and I'm just going by, let me give you an example. George Strait, he has 60 number one hits alone. That's not his top fives, top tens, top 20s. That's just his number ones alone. All right. So when he plays concerts places, he don't play a lot. He plays 10, 20 shows a year and he's done. Well, people would get mad because he don't sing the song that oh, I wanted him to sing this. Well, he can't sing them all. So what he does is every city he's in, he gets the collective back when you did call in the request line, and or now they do it online, he gets a collective average of what people are requesting, plus what is his newest and what he wants you to hear. So what I look at is collectively where people are in my inbox and also the comment boxes. And there's still just so many saying, well, when are we going to see something? I don't see anything. When are we going to see something? If you ain't seen something by now, you're not reading and studying what you're supposed to be. You're still clicking on everything that has lips and everything that has eyelashes and everything that has a mouth flapping.
Drama.
And a lot of it's just, yeah, drama and propaganda and clickbait and regurgitation. Now, where President Trump is different than every other leader that you've ever had is this. He knows who he is. He don't care if you don't like it. He is working with the facts and the truth that haven't been diluted, and you stick with that because he's got people all around him that these executive orders he's signing, he didn't write these himself, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he may have contributed and he may have thought of something on his own, but most of the work that he's working with were from all these different ambassadors, all these different world leaders, etc., mainly generals. All right. So what I try to do is bridge that gap. I believe in gematria because I believe in numbers. Most of you do because you have bank accounts. You look at it every day. If those numbers don't matter, then stop looking at your bank account. Stop fretting about the future and stop fretting about the stock market. So see, but I don't work with gematria too much, except for things that are cool. But you can't make stuff up. Like 45, 46, and 47 equals 138. So President Trump, 45, 46, 47. Okay, 138 is Derrk Johnson. In simple gematria, 138 equals my name. In simple gematria, 138, Derrk Johnson, is also Donald Trump. Now, what are the odds of that? So if you know, so whatever, they take the alphabet and they take A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D equals 4, and so forth. So on. We have 26 letters in the alphabet. Now, someone could come in there and go, hey, we're going to make A 2, B 4, C 6. Okay. Well, it probably still add up because you still have the letters. So, in order to change gematria, you'd have to change the alphabet. All right. I don't think we have any phonicians in the congregation who's willing to go, let's come up with new letters. We already have them. We have all different kinds of languages. It's going to be hard to come up with something that ain't been thought of. So, see, that's how my brain thinks. So I go, okay, let's put that aside. What you got to look at is what is President Trump working with? Are they just firing off by the hips as they go? Are they just going, well, let's just wake up in the morning and see how it rolls? If I don't get Folgers in my cup, it's going to be a long day, Tammy. Whatever, no. And so many people don't have that foundation. And every day I wake up, because I have the foundation of what he's working with. There's a ton of laws and orders on the books, ladies and gentlemen. Alabama, Mississippi, Colorado, Texas, Minnesota, Michigan. Every state has their own laws. Every state has their own constitution. All right, so Michigan laws don't matter to what President Trump's working with federally if it's something to do with federal or military, unless there's something he's doing in the state of Michigan. So, see, there's a lot of laws and orders that just don't matter. So, therefore, you don't have to worry about that. You need to just know what he's working with. And what's so beautiful about what's taking place, which I tried to squeeze in on the conversation with the general and all of them, was the fact that if you'll get in the aircraft, take off. Now, my cousin preached yesterday. I go to an old school church, all right, old school, Pentecostal. All right. Don't care what you believe. You do your own thing. All right. But he always says something that it just hits me like a ton of bricks. And I tell him, all right, now I don't say his name because he don't seat that. But I tell him, if you're listening, you're going to know I'm talking about you. And God knows. And if anybody needs to be blessed on this planet, he does. He and his wife. He's the most consistent man I've ever met in my life, with the way he walks, the way he talks. And he doesn't judge anybody. Never seen him judge. He's never judged me my whole life for anything. And he always invites me places. Say, hey, you want to go with me to this? Hey, check out this truck. Man, you got to look at this. Blah, blah, blah. So yesterday he says, taking off, he didn't necessarily just talk about aircraft, but he was talking in general. He said, in an aircraft, taking off is optional. Landing is mandatory. Now listen to that again. Taking off in an aircraft is optional. You don't have to get on the plane. You don't have to ever fly in your life. But if you do, landing is mandatory. So if you're willing to believe that President Trump, the outsider, never been a politician in his life, steps in this position just simply as president, and all this chaos and all this pandemonium and all this what others think is pandemonium, and they're just firing off at the hip, that wouldn't end too well. It would lead to more chaos and more pandemonium and more dog eat dog and more fights and possibly a civil war and possibly a world war if there was not a plan in place to land this operation. So when you think of logic like that, so flipping the equation around, if you'll take off an aircraft and look over at the bigger picture. See, the end goal of all this is not to be Republican, Democrat. The end goal is not to be conservative, liberal. That's not the end goal. And somewhere in 20, 30, 40 years, when everything is just rolling good, 10, 20, 30, don't necessarily put a whole emphasis on the years, but just look out in the future when things are rolling and we're winning so much that you'll get tired of winning, that he talks about. When you look out there, you're not going to remember the little tiny bumps. If you do, you're focusing on the wrong things. It's the same thing in everybody's life. Every one of us we faced some kind of obstacle somehow, some way. Every day we face something, even if it's tiny or minuscule, but we all face an But if we focus on the negative all the time, and you never focus on the good times, you never focus on the fellowship, your friends, your family, or whatever it is, then you ain't living life like you're supposed to be in the first place. So when you look at this from the bigger standpoint of going in, everybody somewhere in our life, I've heard liberals say this 10 and 15 years ago. I've heard liberals now, dog eat dog liberals say, I just don't trust the government. If we could ever clean it out, that's what we're doing. And now they're yelling and complaining and griping about, again, it'd be like your bank coming to you saying, hey, we found someone trying to hack into your account, and you get mad at your bank for someone hacking your account and them telling you about it. That's how, I know people don't like the word stupid, but it's like President Trump says, sometimes you got to use it. That's how stupid these people look who are arguing over this and mad about it. All right, because at the end of the day, you got to trust somebody. Well, how do you trust them? It's how they treat you. It's what they're doing, whatever it is. But if it's a business that you're going to, well, the reason why you're a repeat customer is because they're doing something that you like, that's repetitive, that makes you repetitive. Either their service is good, how they treat you, or whatever it is, but same thing. And our government got so big that people fail to think about our monetary system. They fail to think about financial and how everything flows. All these men and women, mainly my grandparents and probably your parents, maybe grandparents, depending on how old you are. Look at all, we were talking about this yesterday, my dad and I, who's doing great right now. But we were sitting here talking about the Social Security system. And look at all the people who paid into Social Security, but look at all the people who die before they get the benefit from it. They want you to die before you benefit from it. All right. So look at that. And then when you die, your family don't benefit from that. You've got to call in and say, hey, you got to call it. You got to do it. When people die, that you're the closest one to, or you're the executor of the will, or whatever you are, that you got to do the one. You got to be the one calling around and say, hey, yep, they passed away on this date. Stop payment here. Think about that. You can't. You're supposed to be grieving and or celebrating their life, and you got to call and cancel stuff and say, hey, stop payment here, stop payment here, stop payment here, stop this and stop. So people fail to think about that stuff. Everybody just wants an end result, but they always want someone else to do it. And so, like, that's why people say, why are you so passionate about this? I'm like, well, one, I get it and I understand it. God gave me the ability to keep all this in my head. All right. But then also, when the system's cleaned out and it's running on all systems, as the saying is, and it's running efficiently and effectively, how do you maintain and sustain that? You can't let just in 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever years, really one, but you don't let the same mentality get back in there and wreck it again. After all the sacrifices that these men and women, because again, President Trump is, at the end of the day, he's a dad, he's a husband, he's a grandfather, he's an uncle. All right. So people fail to remember that and apply that, because you're a dad. Some of you listening, you're a dad, you're a mom, you're a grandmother, you're an auntie, you may even be a godmother, but you're taking care of whomever it is, or a godfather, whatever it is. So people fail to apply that to the principle. And that's why Native Americans, and I'm Native, I have a little Native American in me. When you see me at the pool, you wouldn't believe it, but I have Native American in me. All right. Now, I don't speak on behalf of those who have 50% or 30% or whatever, but I do have it. DNA proof. Native American. Native Americans, our ancestors always looked 7 generations out. That's how they lived their life. They lived their daily life looking 7 generations out to their future family. And if every single individual will apply that. So now with what I do, it is really this simple. If every individual will shutter all of the drama and the propaganda and the clickbait, and I'm talking about Fox and CNN, all of it, until you have the foundation of what President Trump's working with, there is a clear line that was drawn in the sand. Clear line, November the 8th, 2016, for every American to see. And then it started January the 20th, 2017, as far as the visualization of it. Then he gave you a big visual picture with the ball cap, the 45-47. He put that on his ball cap April the 2nd, 2023. So a year and 7 months before November the 5th, 2024, which decided number 47, he was claiming, hey, I'm going to be your 47th president. I'm putting it on a ball cap and I'm going to wear it around. Now, you want to know what kind of big kahunas you got to have to do that? If this was just a regular presidency and he's saying, hey, I know I'm going to win. You know how big of a fail that could have been if this was a normal president? You know what they would have done to him? Okay. So, but what the average person says, well, he didn't lose, so he took a gamble. No, look at the dash. He's claiming I'm also 46, because in English, the English that everybody knows, and in punctuation, a dash between the number means through. It means 45, 46, and 47. Or you can do 45 and 46 and 47. So you see, either way you slice the pie, you always got to go back to the dash. And that dash is a unique very unique by laws, and strategic plan, strategic operation. And when you learn the definitions, the glossary, the index, whatever term you want to use for the words, when you learn the terminology and then you apply that, once you learn what an executive order actually is, when you learn what a national emergency is, when you get all that, and then you look at what he's put into place, it forms that beautiful blueprint. Now, my books are the only ones that do it. And there's a little thing now in modern era called intellectual property, so no one else can do it, which is kind of cool in one way. But at the same time, I tell people, hey, it's laws and orders. You should be talking about it, but you should be talking about it from a certain aspect that respects President Trump, his team, his cabinet, his loyalists like Dan Scavino Jr., and a few others like Siggy Flicker and different people who are right there with him all the time. All right. And then also respects the generals, respects the world leaders, respects the leaders. Because if you were following along and had a foundation and knew the terminology, you'd see the ones that he always keeps close by and that he respects himself. And then you would know that. But it also gives a whole new respect to the military. Now, there's been 270 plus commanders relieved of duty since June 2017. But outside of that, when you look at the whole number of military personnel, whether they know what they're serving for or not, they're still under an oath. They will take orders, especially certain levels will absolutely take orders. All right. But you'll know the orders are good when you're looking at the executive orders, because there's only four ways: one, two, three, four ways military pairs with federal law: executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. So, see, it still boils back down to having a foundation of the simplicities of government and the simplicities of the military. All right. And then you'll know how to trust President Trump and also everyone around him. But there is a unique set of laws, a unique footprint, a unique blueprint, a unique shell that they're using that put us in a military government, military occupation, continuity of government, continuity of operations. It's unconventional warfare. And see, there's a simple word right there. It's not conventional, meaning it's not your norm. It is unconventional for a reason. And then it's irregular warfare, which those kind of, they're real similar with a slight variable difference. And then your clandestine operations, your covert operations. Some of it's been overt, what they want you to see. They give it to you overtly, but then the others are covert. All right, it's all lawful. And when you look at the definition of unconventional warfare, the definition of unconventional warfare is to overthrow a government and or occupying power. All right. And my grandfather, who I love both my grandfathers. I had one of them a little bit longer than the other one, but my grandfather who taught me guitar, who lied about his age to get into World War II in the Army, the one who was boarding mates, roommates with Hank Williams Sr., I had a lot of reasons to look up to him. I had a lot of other reasons to look up to my other grandfather too. Nothing against him, merchant marine, farmer. All right. He worked for the Department of Agriculture back when they used chains as old school measuring tapes. I mean, you talking about some tough men. All right. But my grandfather from the Army, he's the one that taught me about the puppet governments. He loved that. He loved that tactic that they used in World War II to put in two different presidents. Now, the puppet governments then, they used literally two different presidents in the Second Philippine Republic. That's the most popular one because Quezon, the President Quezon, came to D.C. and lived in D.C. for a brief moment, and Roosevelt had control of the Filipino military. Japan installed a president in the Philippines during the same time period. He had control of civil affairs only, no military, nothing. And even the press thought he was the president back then. So the press have always been gullible. If we want to share a laugh here, they've always been gullible. All right. Well, So the only three things that were consistent from 2021 to 2025 with quote unquote Joe were the insignia when they would show certain military around the actor Joe. Military intelligence, judge advocate general, and this sounds like two different, but it's only one. Therefore, it totals three. But civil affairs and psychological operations. Now, what are the odds of that? Then you flip over to President Trump just recently, October and November, right before the election. He said, "We're an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. The Great Restoration starts in 9 days," which that was one of his speeches. Well, the 9 days was November the 5th, 2024. Then he said the Great Liberation starts on January the 20th, 2025. Then he named April the 2nd Liberation Day. All right. So everything is a rolling operation. But when you look at the puppet government, go back to February 18th, 2025, just this past February, a reporter asked President Trump, said it was something to do with Russia. And she mentioned the word capitulation, and she mentioned puppet government. Out of all the people who watched that, did they hear it in the first place? Out of all the people who watched it and heard it, did they know what she was referring to? So, see, when you break down the people listening, what were they listening to? Did they hear it? Or were they hearing or just listening? Then did they hear it? Did they know what she was talking about? Of all the things, that's the first time the term puppet government has been used in the public. And guess who is the only person who's talked about puppet governments? Me. Because my grandfather. All right. So I'm living through him and honoring him in a whole different way. But then also passing it down and bringing people saying, hey, this is what's going on. All right. And so occupied territory, same thing as country, occupied territory is in chapter 11 of the Law of War Manual. And like I tell people all the time, when you're sitting around your campfire with your buddies or whoever, or a bonfire, fire, whatever, you're drinking wine with your girls, mimosas, whatever it is, whatever kind of, these aren't terms you use in regular conversation because they're not governmental terms. Capitulation, white flag of surrender, occupied country, puppet government. Those aren't regular government terms. Every one of those are found in the Law of War Manual. And President Trump has used them in multiple speeches, except for puppet government. That popped up this year. But it's complete validation. And a puppet government, I'll pull it up again where we'll read it. But puppet government is a government that, while formally independent, is actually controlled by another power, typically a foreign power. Okay. So President Trump, you'll hear him say stuff. If Joe would have just done this, all he had to do was keep it like this. That is referring to that right there. And when you go to Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide that I talk about all the time, that was put out, the new publication, April 2016, they have a new pyramid in there, page 11. The last time that pyramid was put out was the first time in 1966. Do your math, Christians. 1966 plus 50, or let's do it this way. 2016 minus 50 would be 1966. 50 years in Hebrew is a jubilee. What are the odds of that? And then when you look at that pyramid, they changed one massive key word on that pyramid from 66 to 2016. They changed the word agitation to assassination. And you going to tell me that I'm crazy for knowing how special operations work in the military? And this new publication was put out April 2016, and a quote unquote assassination attempt took place in 2024, 8 years later? You gonna tell me that's a coincidence? So see, when you know the bigger picture, and if you're willing to get in aircraft, well, when you take off, you're up in the air. How you gonna get down on the ground? Landing is mandatory. So you'll have a newfound respect for the military if you'll look at this bigger picture. And so those all those terms, the puppet government. And here's this chick, little girl, I don't know how old she was a young girl, asking President Trump. I dare say, even as the actor she is, actress, because they're all put up to this stuff right now during this time period. Because the dash is done, but the 47 isn't. The whole thing's an operation. Laws show that. And here's how like if you're, I'll talk to you like this. If you are awake, which a lot of you are, but if you're struggling with friends and family, but you got someone close, like you got someone right there in the middle, and they're at their tipping point, or they get frustrated, or whatever it could be, there's always something there that is an absolute proof for them to fall back on. Meaning, like, it's an absolute proof. Meaning, like, okay, if you get frustrated, then fall back on this right here. That one of the fallbacks is your reserve components, your National Guard. So New York, recently, March the 11th, you can go to Google and type in March 11th, 2025, comma, New York State Senate, comma, .gov, comma, letter to President Trump, enter. It's going to pull up the official New York Senate.gov letter that the New York senators sent to President Trump asking him to federalize the National Guard to active duty. Well, he didn't have to. There's no order in place of him doing that. But there's an Army article that came out just a couple weeks ago. Army.mil, our official military Army site. There's an article that 8,200 National Guard are on correctional facility duty, a prison strike, one of the biggest strikes since 1979. 8,200 National Guard. Well, there's a letter in place that the Senate sent to President Trump, but there's no order from President Trump doing that after March the 11th, 2025. You know why? Because the order's in place March the 27th, 2020, when he federalized 1 million reserve components to active duty. And then you tell them, see, this is how you do it. You roll it this way. You don't roll it 2022, 2023. You roll it backwards on them, because that's how you show proof, unequivocal proof. All right, you roll it backwards. Then you go and say, here's the Army.mil from 2023 report, which also means 2022 is included in this, because the report's in 2023. Then here's 2,800 New York National Guard in the subways. Now, they'll tell you Governor Hochul did that. When you go look, it's a Title 10 order. Governor Hochul has no Title 10 power or authority. Only the president does. That's why I have so much trouble, and I don't say trouble but I'm talking about issues maybe with veterans out there. All right. There's no way we swore in, all of us veterans swore in under Title 10, Section 502, the same Title 10. You cannot support one part of it and not the other. And it's baffling that we have that many veterans, and I don't know what the number is, but there's still a few out there that's combative over this, saying that ain't how it operates. It most certainly is. Where's President Trump's new order then? If they had to write a letter to him, where's his new Title 10 order? It's not there. The only Title 10 order of that capacity in 2025 is way back in 2020. So see, there's something right there. But that points to, and I love our veterans, but there's so many veterans, right? The number used to be 3%. Now, if you do the math, if you go to Google, it's 6% of America are veterans. But again, I don't know every one of them, but when I see comments like that from a veteran, or you see them on Twitter, X, you see all veterans against Trump and all this. They look atrocious. I mean, just saying that line alone is atrocious because everything President Trump's done, it is, I mean, you could literally, I mean, I don't even know how you could lick a random flip flop in Panama City and it'll be clean as a whistle. All right. Close to the Constitution. All right. The odds of finding a flip flop in Panama City that don't have all kinds of crud on it are not there. But if you could use that hypothetical crazy analogy with President Trump, use it close to the Constitution, that's what it would be like. All right. So I come up with crazy stuff to get people to think, going, hey, so a veteran out there that says that's military industrial complex speaking. That's people who joined the military because they didn't want to go to work. They didn't want to go to college. They used the military as a last resort. And they think that we're taking away something from their work. No, I'm not taking away what you did in the military. But when you say that this isn't how Title 10 operates or how Title 32 or how Title 14 or whatever the title we're talking about, when you say that, no, you got to be put in your place as well because you're misleading Americans. All right. And what military does is we do liberate. That is what we are for. We're neutral, supposed to be neutral, but we're also supposed to go by the orders of the president and the officers appointed over us. That is what's put in the oath. So when you hear people say that, but see, I have to address it because it shies people away. I had a comment on my TikTok this week. Guys, looks atrocious, talking about the military is operating under a treasonous nation. Therefore, the military is also treasonous. So you take the whole military and you say the whole military is treasonous. See, that alone, I'll take up for the soldiers who maybe don't know what they're serving for, but they're not out there saying, oh, this isn't how it works. No, this is how it works. All right. And saying that the whole military is treasonous is asinine. That means everybody walking around is treasonous. That means all of us have some form of treason on us because we think differently or we look differently. We believe differently. That is someone who just needs to delete all their apps and get off the internet. Go fishing. All right. So, or go hunting, go hiking, do something. So when you look at what we're going through right now, 2017 to 2021 was a complete resetting of Article 1, the legislative branch. Because President Trump walked in there and he used all these laws and orders on paper that's been there for years. And then they wrote new executive orders, or the ones that they needed to accompany certain things and or stand alone and or, work on their own. Because 98%, 95 to 98% of this whole battle was just simply enforcing the law. Doing what the law says on behalf of the people, the will of the people, protecting us, keeping us safe. All of us who are good law-abiding citizens, like the movie, but law-abiding citizens, right? Those of us who are true Americans doing good. There's no reward for us for doing good. Our reward for doing good is staying out of prison. That's our only reward. Have you noticed we don't have a reward for being good Americans? Our reward is not getting in trouble. Our reward is not going to jail. Our reward is not going to prison. So we have to have someone come in and go, okay, we got all these Americans who do good on a daily basis. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We got to protect them. All right. And there's a way for everybody to make money. We're a capitalist nation. The American dream is to get rich and to not have to work every day like a slave. That is the American dream. All right. So all of a sudden, all these liberals acting like you are a imbecile or a disgrace to society because you want to get rich and not work. That's the most craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. So when you apply what had to happen, somebody had to have a plan to go, okay, the American public don't know who the bad dudes are. They don't know who all the bad guys are in the financial systems, all these centralized banks and all the checks and balances that the deep state made of their own. They don't know who they are. They don't know where all the links are. They don't know all the cartels and how they all link and how they. So they said, you know what? And I do it just as slang as I can be. You know what? Let's use some old tactics. Let's use unconventional warfare. And if you'll look in the new, I think it was put out 2023, but you'll look at the Special Operations Command Renaissance publication, it's got President John F. Kennedy all over it. And at the very back of it, or the end of it, however you want to look at that, it's got a quote by him. And he talks about guerrilla warfare. So if you got a problem with unconventional warfare and secret military, then you got a problem with John F. Kennedy. You got a problem with JFK. All right, because he's the one who was a connoisseur of this. That's why the whole Special Operations Warfare Center is named after John F. Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I love his name. So, you got a problem with that. That was the hijacking. And they just kept getting worse and more atrocious and more incompetent. That's why you have someone like President Trump, who's been saying, he's been talking about China since before I was born. And I don't mind telling my age at this point in life. I'm 42. President Trump's been talking about China since before I was born. I mean, apply that. That's how consistent this man is. He's not a dummy. That's why they hate him. So it goes back to a quote I heard just this week. It said, if you got a problem with what's going on, you're probably linked to the problem. If you got a problem with the government being cleaned out and all these kickbacks being trapped and caught and cut off, you probably are benefiting from that somehow, some way. So I love what's going on because I know the foundation, I know the terminology, I also know the laws and orders that President Trump's using. You don't have to know anything else. And I'm going to exert something really quick again. I like to do what President Trump calls the interweave. I got a buddy that plays guitar like nobody's business. But someone asked him one time, could he play like Stairway to Heaven? He was like, no. And then they asked him another song. He's like, no. He's like, you tour with so-and-so. He said, I know so-and-so songs. I don't need to know anybody else's. See, and it was like Brooks and Dunn or someone like that. Let's just say it like that. He toured with someone big. And he said, well, what if they ask you randomly in the concert? He said, nope, they don't do that. That's why they hired me. It's all pre-planned. And he could play the fire out of the song. So same thing. You don't need to know Washington state law. You don't need to know Alabama law. You only need to know what President Trump's working with right now. That's military and federal. And so the 2017 to 2021 legislative branch, Article 1 clean out. And there's proof of that. So you're talking about your fallbacks. Like if you're taking notes right now and you got friends and family, you have a small group. So if they're looking like a cow at a new gate, you say, look, I got a fallback. So hear it out. Here's what happened in 2021 back to 2017. There was a legislative Article 1 clean out. But here's how you prove it. At the end of that, the December the 7th, 2020, President Trump, Executive Order 13961, the Federal Mission Resilience Strategy. That was the invocation, the invoking of continuity of government and continuity of operations of the executive branch. Because on January the 1st, just a little over 3 weeks later, on January the 1st, FEMA, don't worry about what's going on in the bigger picture with FEMA. Look at what President Trump was doing with them. FEMA put out a publication on January the 1st, 2021, 3 weeks after that executive order, called Reconstitution of the Executive Branch. Reconstitution means to take something and put it back to its original state. So that told you right there that what? The legislative branch got out of whack a little too. And it's saying the executive branch got out of whack. And we're about to go now into phase 2 of this operation. We're going to clean out the executive branch. And what was all 2021 to 2025 reflective of? See, all throughout 2021 back to 2017, you saw all President Trump just hammering these new laws, legislation, legislative branch. That's why the liberals kept whining and complaining. He's sending us 50 years back. No, he took us further back than that. Y'all ain't doing your math correctly. See, then that's why it's so important. The three cannons on January the 20th, 2021, that was your visual moving into the 2021 to 2025. They were showing you, hey, none of this is real. If you know the terms and if you know what you're looking at, Tim and all the other veterans that knew what I'm not the only one that saw what I saw. I'm not the only one. So the three cannons, the first time in U.S. history they've ever shown the cannons at Arlington for Inauguration Day, and the first time you've ever seen two sets of cannons on Inauguration Day. And they showed, quote unquote, Joe with three, which is a funeral service. And then they showed the four with President Trump at Joint Base Andrews. So that was all visuals, all that chaos through January 2021. And the only thing the liberals hang on is January the 6th, but they don't realize what they witnessed. Jenny's state, the great state of Arizona, all right, the great state of Arizona, in the third state in the certification count, Alabama and Alaska, they went through them, check. They did. I mean, here's what's funny about it. If they didn't want you to really know, they could have waited to about Delaware, somewhere in there, or a little further even than that. But they do it third state out the gate. First time in U.S. history you witness objections take place in the state of Arizona certification count. So the whole world as a witness, whether you knew what you were witnessing or not, the whole world as a witness witnessed Congress, even though it was planned. But for the average person that didn't know what they were looking at, the average person witnessed Congress break federal law. Title 3, Section 15. It says on the very last line of that big chunk of paragraph, when you look it up, that no vote is to be certified until the objections are disposed of. They didn't do that. Pelosi, remember? Oh, it was so distraught. Yeah, and they walked right back in there and did not go into a special chamber to sort out what took place in Arizona. Nope, they walked right back in. They went from California to Wyoming, certified, quote unquote, Joe. They broke Title 3, Section 15, and then they broke federal law, seditious activity to overthrow the government, because certifying a fraudulent person, even though I know it was all rigged, again, if you're awake, you know it was rigged on purpose. All right, this was on purpose because we were going into the military government. All right, but for the average person, you witnessed them breaking the very laws they say President Trump broke with no evidence whatsoever. But they showed you on live TV, showed it there. 18 U.S. Code 2381, 2384, 2385. 18 U.S. Code is your federal law and criminal procedures. And then they also broke 52 U.S. Code 20511. All right, all those. That's the only thing liberals have. But see, when you look at the bigger picture, you were moving into the clean out of the executive branch. And then it was nothing but, quote unquote, Joe. All right. And then Joe this, and they made him look dumb. He was tripping, walking upstairs, not downstairs. He would walk on a beach. Every one of you who know, East Coast, West Coast, South, y'all know, we know how hard it is to walk on the beach sometimes. It's tough. It's something to do with the sun, makes you tired, and walking on those little ripples, it's tough. It ain't as easy as people think it is sometimes, especially when that sand's hot. They got Joe out there walking like it's nothing. And then he's tripping on a flat surface. I mean, this is how gullible Americans are. All right. And then Americans are also soft and sensitive. When they get told how soft and sensitive they are, they get mad at someone like me for telling them how soft and sensitive and gullible they are. And like, the dude can walk fine on sand, but he trips on a flat surface. The dude trips up the stairs, but he don't fall down the stairs. I mean, again. So they knew the average American was just going to do what? The average American is like a hamster in a wheel, just in a cycle. And all you care about is what President Trump said. And it's true. And it's fine that it's true. But President Trump, on the campaign trail in 2016, he said, the American people, when I fix the economy, the American people will trust us. He didn't say me, but he said me and us. He said, the American people will trust us because all the American people care about are their paycheck, their families, and their livelihoods. That's it. And he said, when we win them over with the economy, they won't mind what we're doing with our military because they'll have the results of what affects their daily life. So why aren't many Americans applying that? Because Americans still, you can know. See, so a guy like me paints what you can know. Do you know it? Maybe not, but you can know it. You don't have to wait till the end result to know what's going on, but you got to want to. My dad always tells me all the time. He used to tell me, I'd say, I'm praying for a Corvette. And he said, well, you better pray a little harder because you ain't seen you put no feet to no prayers to get no Corvette. People say it all the time, well, God wins. Well, yeah, but God can give you a shovel, but he don't expect the shovel to dig the hole. You got to dig the hole. So see, people thinking that we can just pray without work, and fight. People got to lose that mentality. He does win, but he expects us to fight for it. So now apply what we're going through right now. So you have all the Joe and all the executive, the president versus the president. That was 2021 to 2025. Now all the topics are what? Every headline and topic right now are judge this and court this and Supreme Court this and judge that and judge this and Supreme. That's Article 3 of the Constitution. So 2017 to 2021 legislative, Article 1. 2021 to 2025, Article 2, executive. Now you're looking at all Article 3 type material, everything. Judge this, judicial that, and Supreme Court this, and District Court that, and Appeals Court this, and District Court that. It's all judicial, but it's all been planned. Just like the liberals, the Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia. First off, there's your three names. Those of you following, there's your three. They're using the three names. So you automatically know right there he has something on his record that they're not showing people. All right. So you got the three names. Then they're misspelling his name. The 2019 actual justice.gov page shows it as Kilmer. All the other pages now are showing it as Kilmar. All right. So there's that. And if you go read the actual case itself, which I've been reading the 2019, and I'll just highlight it really quick. We won't read the whole thing, but he tells on himself. And that's what criminals do. They tell on themselves. He said they said, well, you were supposed to go to court for these traffic violations you have. And he said that he didn't know about he didn't have any kind of material and nothing was sent to him about that. But he was the one who alluded to that he got the citation. Well, a citation is an actual piece of paper, and it tells you on the citation that if you don't pay, it's like getting a speeding ticket. You can pay the ticket outright, or you can go to court, or the officer can say, on a little checkbox, depending on what it is, that the citation that appear in court, whatever it may be. So apparently he had a citation that said he was supposed to appear in court because he never did, and he got hit for that. So it's like we have nothing that gives us a reward for being a good citizen. Every now and then, sure, there's something happens and someone does something, and then the mayor will give you the key to the city. But other than that, just being an average American human being, there's no reward daily for us just, doing what we're supposed to be doing. So why is it that when you watch cops, I love watching cops. It's always rednecks. I don't know how did that crack get in my glove kit? It's not mine. How did it ain't my crack? Well, it's your wallet. How did it get in your wallet? Well, I don't know, but it ain't mine. They're all innocent. If every cop let everybody go that they apprehended, they're all innocent according to them. So see, if you listen to liberals, no one would ever be arrested. But see, this 2019 filing is due process. That is due process. They're saying, oh, we need to bring him back. He deserves it. He had due process. They already have records where the judge says, well, no, there's no criminal record. However, you are a member. It is verified member of MS-13. Did he join the gang just to admire their gun and knife collection? I'm trying to understand here why you just joined a gang just because. I mean, I don't think that's how gangs work. Go ask the real gang bangers, the ones who did murder people. Hey, do y'all let people in just to admire your gun collection, just to ride around with y'all look cool? Is that how that works? Is it because y'all got cool lowriders? Is that it? I mean, you got to get stupid sometimes. You got to paint a stupid scenario in order for dumb people to be able to. You got to dummerize them even more. You got to put them in a dummy corner and go, okay, so you're telling me that this guy, y'all want him to come back to face due process. He already had due process. And you say, oh, he doesn't have a criminal record. Okay, but he's verified MS-13. So what is it? Which one is it? You're splitting hairs here. Which one is it? And so when you go read the full record, the most key part of it is this. It says humanitarian issues. Abrego Garcia claims to be in good health. So this is him telling them. Abrego Garcia was given the opportunity to make one free phone call. Abrego Garcia made a call to blank, blank, at blank, remain for 5 minutes. Abrego Garcia is not claiming fear of returning to his country. Now, that's under the humanitarian issues clause. So then it comes down on the same sheet, intelligence information. Abrego Garcia has gang affiliation and subject states that he has no information about gangs or human drug smuggling. But then he goes on to say that Abrego Garcia was advised his right to speak with a consular officer of his native country of El Salvador, which he declined. Abrego Garcia is claiming fear of returning to his home country of El Salvador. Now, in the humanitarian portion, he did not claim fear of returning. But in the intelligence information, he claimed fear. Now, let's go read the definition of a humanitarian issue. A humanitarian issue involves a crisis that impacts a large number of people, often involving threats to human life or well-being, and requires large-scale assistance. So see, when you're seeking asylum anywhere, there's a difference in asylum and being a refugee. And this is why it's so important for people to really listen to what you've been watching. And I've heard so many quote unquote patriots, and I won't name them, but I've heard so many people use the term immigrant. No, President Trump and the media have used the word migrant, not immigrant. Huge difference. A migrant means temporarily. That's the term they've been using. Migrants, not immigrants. Therefore is the definition and the difference in a asylum seeker and a refugee. A refugee must seek asylum in the country next to them. The asylum seekers, when they if they manage to get into the country, they are to immediately seek asylum. And they have to say, like that right there, I fear for my life going back to my country. Because they've either been hazed or brutal, but whatever it is, abused or whatever it could be, for humanitarian. Not intelligence. So let's read the intelligence information. An example of intelligence information is a threat assessment report analyzing the potential for a terrorist attack based on intercepted communications and social media activity. And there's a few other definitions of that. Meaning that all right, if he's in a gang and he's afraid of going back to El Salvador for intelligence, that means he has something. That means he knows something. That means that, yes, I am in a gang. And it also means like, okay, I can be neutral. I'm a neutral person. Liberals may not think so. And some, patriots might not think so, but they're wrong. I'm a neutral person. I believe people make mistakes. I'm not someone who bashes someone right out the gate without hearing all sides of the story. Okay, so you came in our country in 2012. Why didn't you seek asylum right then? How is it 2025, 13 years later, and you're saying, oh, I'll get a lawyer to work on these court things and these traffic violations, and I'll do that? Yeah. And then you married while you were detained. Why didn't you get married before that? Your wife was pregnant with a baby in 2019. So here we are, and you got married. But they got married in 2019 after that, after he was apprehended in a tank, after he was put in, and then goes to this court, and these judges are saying, nope, you're MS-13, you didn't seek asylum, you're going to be out of here. Only then did they marry, and they married behind a glass. And boy, you want to read a sob story, go look up the case of that portion of it. Though you talking about some gaslighting and manipulation, it's at its finest. The sob, they'll put a sob story on. It's like a mellow, crying version of Jerry Springer. All right, it's like sob this and sob that, but what he said, he admitted he has two legal brothers here. They went through their legal residence. If that's true, how come they didn't help him become a legal resident in 2012? So see, that's the portion that we're going through right now, and we're having a resetting of the judicial branch in the bigger picture. We're having a resetting of all the judges. We're seeing what judges, whether it's lifetime or just playing time. I believe playing because I know what's going on. But for the people who think it's real time, then in real time, you're seeing what judges are going to do what? Uphold the law, not be what? Lawfare. Because so far, the judge that they've been highlighting, guess who he was appointed by? Not President Trump, which means he's going by what? The deep state, the old swamp. He's being a loyalist to the old swamp and trying to block President Trump. All right. When SCOTUS ruled that President Trump can use the 1798 Wartime Aliens and Seditions Act. And then if you recently, I know some people would have this question, I'll probably go ahead and answer it, but the people say, well, why are they blocking him? I had that question in my inbox earlier on Facebook. Why are they blocking the deportations? I said, you didn't read everything. They temporarily blocked the Venezuelan deportation. And it blocked all the deportations. See, so that's where people still, and I'm not knocking this person if they hear this, but there's a huge difference in blocking, permanently blocking, or blocking, period, deportations as a whole versus temporarily blocking Venezuelan deportations. All right. Because Obama signed an executive order in 2015, Executive Order 13692, and declared a national emergency for Venezuela that blocked the entrance of Venezuelans. Obama did that. And then President Trump just continued it this past February, which means, therefore, what? If President Trump is a threat to democracy and a threat in violating the Constitution, then if Obama signed and declared the national emergency, and national emergency has a 2-year automatic termination unless it's continued, which every time it's continued, it's good for 2 years. Well, if Obama signed it and President Trump continued it in February this year, that means someone else had to too, right? The auto pen. That means, quote unquote, Joe, to all of us who know the plan and that it's an operation. But to the average American who doesn't know that, Joe continued it 4 years. So how is President Trump the threat to democracy? And then also the judges. So if the Americans want to believe it's real time, then what they're going to really see is either judges removed or resign, potentially, either removed, fired, and or resign. They may even see, hey, now everybody's going to root this on if you're a real hardcore patriot. It could be like, if in reality they should walk in and fire all the judges and just say, we're starting all over again. Everybody, pack your bags and go home. Because see, what people don't realize, and liberals definitely, if you believe the way I do, liberals would really think that you and I are truly fascists and whatever else. But they don't realize that they're the fascists, they're the Marxists, they're the communists, because the Constitution was written for us to keep Congress in check. But the way our founders established the three branches of government, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, legislative, executive, and judicial, they put them in an order for a reason. We, the people, we elect representatives for what? What is the root word of representative? Represent. They represent us. They represent the will of us. Well, we have state representatives and we have U.S. representatives. All right. So that's why the federal government don't need to be that big, because there's nothing really massive outside of our protection. Okay. But there's nothing other than that. And then also infrastructure and disasters and things of that nature. Natural disasters, catastrophic events, things. That's all the federal government's really there for. Because what would Michigan and Alabama have in common any other day? You wouldn't. Michigan shouldn't pay for Alabama's hurricanes, and Alabama shouldn't pay for Michigan's snowstorms or whatever they have up there. So, see, when you really understand that aspect of it, then it'll make sense. So, liberals, they don't understand the simplicities of government, much less the intricacies of it, because what you're witnessing is the resetting of it. And then when you get back to the U.S. government versus your state and local representatives, that the election of those, we do that. And we should want more state representation, because if you love where you're from, like if you're just hardcore, you never leave in Florida, you're never leaving Georgia, you never leave in South Carolina, wherever you are, you're never leaving it, then you're a product of that state and you love that state, and maybe you frequently visit all your cities in that state or whatever it is you do. But that's the fabric of you. The U.S. representation is just whenever there's a catastrophic event, natural disaster, etc. So those U.S. representatives should actually resemble the old school continental, meaning that we may not need it all the time. They need to meet when they need to meet, not career politicians every single day. All right. And that's why the tariffs can offset that. That's where those come in. They can offset that, meaning that we don't have to sit around and get taxed everywhere we turn around and everywhere we breathe. We're getting taxed. No, we're saying, all right, if this country needs something and they're not willing to do a fair trade, then tariff time. All right, we're going to hit you with a percentage because you want us to give you something that's $100,000 in value, but you only want to give us something in return that's $10,000 in value. Nope, not going to do it. Reciprocal. And then we can make that up. And then we can give back to our people. That's why President Trump talks about how much money we had in the 1880s to 1913. But when you look at the Organic Act, you can see that he's alluding to the people that saw that and knew that, and then they came up with their own little system and hijacked it. They hijacked that. So the legislative branch, we elect them. Then we elect the president and the vice president. We the people. That's why we the people look atrocious right now. Not some of us, but a lot. The average American looks terrible when it comes to understanding their simple rights and the simplicities of government and the simplicities of the military and the simplicities of everything, our principles, our morals, our foundation. They don't get it. So therefore, they had to do this from the top down, even though it should have been from the bottom up. It should have been. But you can't do that when people don't even know what they're fighting for. Because for the last 60 years, everybody's been pinned against each other off of religion, race, politics. Our core values as an American, and American history, all these hijackers, the rhinos, the dinos, the deep state on both sides of the aisle pinned everybody against each other, fighting over the dumbest things, when at the end of the day, it wasn't going to change anyway. If you're Buddhist, you're Buddhist. If you're atheist, you're atheist. I can't make you be a Christian. I can't make you. You can hold a gun to someone, you can't make them. So people stop worrying about that and look at the bigger picture. So judicial branch, they're appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Well, who elects the Senate again? We the people do. All right. And then who elects the president again? We, the people, do. Some of the judicial branch doesn't do what the executive and legislative branch says or is writing bills and acts and putting things in the law. Then they're not doing the what? The will of we, the people, who elected the legislative and executive, who appointed the judicial. That's why Marbury versus Madison is so important. 1803. Our founding father, the father of the Constitution, the guy who was the main author of the Constitution, having to go into the United States Supreme Court that they created and established and had to tell what a law looks like and is. I mean, that's like inventing a vehicle that you made the engine, you made everything, but especially the engine. And then you having to go tell a mechanic who's trying to say, no, it don't work, like, I built it. Yes, it does. So Chief Justice Marshall knew if he didn't rule a certain way in that landmark landslide case of 1803, the founders who were still alive, that most of them were still alive at that point, they were going to do what? Either fire him, fire all the judges, or abolish the whole Supreme Court and the court system and come up with something new. They had options because they established it and created it. So see, look how atrocious we look now. Here was a founding father who wrote the Constitution in the Supreme Court 16 years after he wrote it. So look how dumb we look now. Look at all the people who say you got to be a lawyer to know the law. How can Derrk Johnson know what he knows? He doesn't. How can a little shit kicker, boot kicker, didn't do much in the military, know what he knows? Oh, so my knowledge and my education stops where my quote unquote career stopped, or my life, or whatever. See, that's the mentality out there of the average American. A lot of them, because they put stuff in entitlement and titles and positions and resumes, and that when this right now, what's going on, doesn't have a thing to do with that. It doesn't have a thing to do with it. And President Trump knows that, and all his people know that. He knows who the patriots are. He knows there's people out here just like me and the Jennies and I say it like that, meaning that he knows the ones that know. They know that. They're because they are in control of the internet, etc. They know this stuff. All right. And so, like me, I've been fully confirmed that they made me happen because they knew I could handle it. They knew I knew what I was talking about. And the timing was perfect. If they'd have let me go viral in 2021 or 2020, it wouldn't have been perfect timing. It wouldn't have been, because we were still in heavy operations then. So when you look at the bigger picture, you take off from the aircraft, look over, man, it's awesome what's going on, because this is the completion. Now, President Trump gave you like markers along the way, and I've been trying to, of all videos I didn't save or whatever it was, but because he's had so many speeches, but he did give the marker of Memorial Day 2025 and then July the 4th, 2026. Well, Memorial Day this year is May the 26th. Well, that date, May 26th, just so happens to be the anniversary of May 26, 1783, which is our founders celebrated the end of the Revolutionary War. And they called it the Great Jubilee Day. That was the title of it. So when you look at the Jubilees, now I'm not perfect with this, but John Hagee, who is a Jew, but also is a Pentecostal preacher now in San Antonio, Texas, he has an episode, he has a sermon where he talks about this Rabbi Judah ben Samuel. This guy lived way back in the day, and he died before any of this took place, but he didn't make a prediction. See, there's a huge difference. I don't make predictions. That's the difference in me and everybody else and certain people I go on shows with. I don't sit and tell, oh, on April the 5th, be ready for this. Because when you start doing that and you're wrong and you're wrong and you're wrong, then you look kind of, I don't know. I won't say the words. You just look a certain way. You look like a clickbaiter. You look like something. This guy, this rabbi, way back, he just said, look, a jubilee equals 50 years. And he said, at the point that the Ottoman Empire retakes its territory, you start counting from that year, your jubilees forward. And when it falls, total up those jubilees. But he had this 10 jubilees. For some reason, there was this number 10. And this was way back, like the 1200s, 1300s. He died like 300 years or so before, two or 300 years before the Ottoman Empire regained its territory. So the Ottoman Empire is modern day Turkey. All right. Ottoman Empire regained its territory in 1517. All right. It fell in 1917. So that's 8 jubilees right there, because 50 years equals a jubilee. That was 400 years. That's 8 jubilees. All right. Now there's only 2 jubilees left according to this rabbi's jubilee calendar. But he never put a date. He never said the date. He didn't put a month or a year. He just said jubilees, which equals to 50 years. So there's only 2 left from 1917. 1917 plus 50, 1967. All right, 1967 in June 5th to the 10th was the 6-day war in Israel. All right, and 2 million Muslims had to denounce their Muslimhood and become Christians. You can go read all about this. This is documented. All right, and this wasn't that long ago. Look how old some of you are. It wasn't that long ago. So it ain't like that's far-fetched to believe. And this is recorded recently in our history, 1967. The 6-day war. Siggy Flicker was born in a bomb shelter during that time period. That's what makes her unique. All right. Then you got 1 jubilee left. 50 years. 50 plus 1967. 2017. December the 6th, 2017, Donald John Trump, out of nowhere, declares Jerusalem the capital of Israel. Now, you're going to tell me that's just a coincidence? You're going to tell me that finishes that quote-unquote calendar? All right, and what that Messiah, the rabbi, what the rabbi called that 10th Jubilee, final Jubilee, it was called the Messiah's reign. R-E-I-G-N. If you know what reigning means, then you will probably get some chill bumps. All right. And you can go read all about Rabbi Judah ben Samuel. And there's a current rabbi right now that a lot of people know about, Jonathan Cahn. He talks about Rabbi Judah ben Samuel himself too. All right. So it's not far-fetched. And see, that's why I have a problem right now. We got a lot of quote-unquote Christians who are getting a lot of stuff mixed up. A lot of stuff. Talking about my friend Siggy. Talking about, oh, they're Zionists and they're this, and President Trump's following that. You don't know much about the average Christian in America that I've met. You need to put a wet sock in your mouth and go fishing. That's what you need to do. Now, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I know enough to know that what is taking place and what President Donald John Trump did, first off, his bloodline don't line up for the Antichrist. So there's that. And then 2, if he was the Antichrist, what are you going to do about it? What have you done about it? So see, how can you expect the kingdom of God when you ain't even fighting for it? You're whining, complaining, and griping. There's one thing about a warrior. What a warrior can do is go, okay, you go in somewhere, all right, and you're fighting, and then all of a sudden, what you thought was the enemy might not be the enemy, or there might be a bigger enemy. You can do a thing called flank. You can re-strategize or retreat a little bit, re-strategize, whatever you got to do. Okay, so if President Trump was the Antichrist, guess what people like me can do? People like me can re-strategize because I know what he's been working with. See there? So see, people hang themselves by their quote-unquote rhetoric sometimes because so many people just want a voice. So many people want a name. we're in the age of social media where everybody wants an opinion. Everybody wants to say something, be the funny guy in the comments or be the one. Just everybody got to say something because it makes you bold in the comment box. It makes you bold. But when you don't say, everybody who's ever said anything about me, they don't say it to my face. I ain't had one yet say it to my face because they ain't bold enough, especially the guys. They ain't bold enough. And if one does pop up, depending on what it is, what they say, I might even just congratulate them because one, I don't care. So there's that. So I'm like Tom Homan. I don't care what you think about me. You can have a million hit pieces tomorrow about me. I don't care. All right. Because I know I'm fighting for the right reasons. All right. Because I'm working with a blueprint. And what President Trump, when you know the blueprint and you hear someone say he's the Antichrist, it is a far fetched from that. So far fetched. The other thing is like when people, I love this for fun reasons. People say Derrk Johnson's controlled opposition. If I was controlled opposition, my controllers will be very disappointed in me because I've told the whole blueprint and I can tell it from a whole standpoint.
That's
So
funny, Derrk.
it's hilarious, right? Because I'd be like, I'd be the one getting my
That's
butt
awesome.
tortured. Right?
That's
I'd be the one being like, they'd be like hanging me up, chaining me up upside down, being like whipping me with an old school whip, like one of them old school whips, going, you made a mistake here. You told them this. What? You know, like it's so funny. But there's so many good patriots. And I know sometimes when I talk, it sounds like I'm just being negative. I'm not. I'm saying, look, we still have to try to win over all these average minds because what I don't see happening, everyone in this comment box, no offense, but you're probably 40 years old and up. And that shouldn't be any offense anyway, because I'm 42. But still, guess what you see when you just take a hike to a bar somewhere? Go to a bar in a college town. All right. You ain't got to drink. Just go in a bar. Look at what college kids are doing. Look at what they're not. That's the future. And look at these. And hey, University of Alabama, party school, Auburn, all of them. They big on football, big on. Look at what the college kids are learning and studying still. They're not studying what we're talking about. They're not. That's our future. When you and I are in nursing homes, or if we got someone taking care of us when we're in our 80s and 90s, if we make it there, God willing, that's our future. Right? So, that's the stuff we've got to do. And all this drama and propaganda, like I don't even want mudslinging in the future. Like we need to get straight down to, okay, what are we working with? What do we want in our communities? What do we want in our towns? What do we want in our cities, our counties, our state? None of this mudslinging. Like if you're qualified and you say good things, but you can back it up, it don't. I remember in Alabama one time, they slandered a guy so bad because he was living in a mobile home, but he was as brilliant as you could get. And they put it on the like commercials. Oh, you want this guy representing you? Put the mobile home. I mean, you talking about doxing, but look at the stuff that they have done through the years. That's the stuff that still feeds into the deep state, but that's also the average American mindset is what Fox News has on. And it's all syndicated TV. It means it's closed caption. It's a captured audience. They know who their audiences are. And Fox will give you a nugget here and there, but what people aren't doing is the same thing when you go to church on Sunday. The preacher can't sit there and preach the whole Bible because people wouldn't sit there. So he gives you a nugget. How many people go home and go, I got to go look at that scripture and I got to see what other scriptures tie to it? Not many do it. So it's the same thing with President Trump, what he's working with versus what Fox does. Fox gives you a nugget. How many Americans are going to look at that nugget? How many are saying, you know what? I can turn the TV off for an hour. I cannot go outside for an hour. I cannot go play golf today. I can turn the football game off just for a brief moment. All right. How many people are sacrificing right now in this most historic, well, first off, biblical, historical, monumental time period? How many people are taking that extra 5 to 10% if you're tired or maybe frustrated or it don't make sense? How many are applying that extra 5 to 10%, just a little bit more, to figure it out? How many are doing that? It's not us in this bright. It's not. I'm probably not. No, talking to everybody in this room right now, but someone who may hear this later on the recording. How many people are doing that? And by the average eyes, I'm an average American. By the average, it's not that many. It's just not. So, how do we maintain and sustain that moving in the future? Now, the cool thing is, I know that the plan didn't just end with 47. That's the operation, but they have people in place that's going to sustain it for X amount of time. But look at our founders. As soon as all of our founders died, as soon as the last one died, and the direct descendants of them, the linkage, if you want to call it that, but the lineage especially, as soon as when they died, look what took place. So look at the people around them. That's where the numbers come from. The real numbers are 1.8, 1.9% of population fought in the Revolutionary War. But military calls it the 3%ers. But whatever. When you still do 1.9 or 3% out of the 100%, so that's what fought. So when you look at the other percentile around that, when they don't care and they're not educated or they don't want to contribute, but they're the loudest barkers, and or they hijack the system and they get in there off of incompetence, and or they may look better, talk better, say something, or learn a script, but they don't really know it, the passion behind it. That's what we have to worry about. And that's why it's important right now to get as many people, but it's also important your delivery with people, like your friends and family. And if you don't feel confident in the delivery, that's when you throw me under the bus in a good way. Man, I'm like, hey, I can't really explain it, but this guy can. But you got to tell them, hey, look, neutral seat. If you care and love this country, this guy don't care if you're gay, Buddhist, atheist, black, white, Asian, this, mixed, interracial mix, what, I don't care. None of that. You, everybody who's gay are just as gay as they was when President Trump took over. They're just as gay. And anybody's Buddhist or atheist, they're just as Buddhist, they're just as atheist. None of that changes. Their paycheck's changing, and the taxes are changing. Everything's going to get better for them, so their rights didn't get taken away. The grants that were paying all these dumb colleges for these weird, wacky programs, that got taken away. Also, what got taken away is no, I'm not going to fund you to go have your thing cut off or added to you. We're not funding that. But your right to do that wasn't taken away. You're just going to have to find somebody who's willing to do it on your dime and on their time, not on mine and not on the American public and not on the American people, the American taxpayer. All right. And I believe they're going to come up with probably like a flat tax. I believe kind of like what Herman Cain talked about years ago when he was running. I believe that's what they're going to do, because we do have bridges. We do have, like interstates or freeways, as y'all call them out west. We have things that we all share, all right, that we do need to contribute with, especially if come on, Louisiana. All you Louisianans, my God, have mercy. You'd have better luck riding a railroad track with a tire that don't have an actual tire on it. You just running on the rim. If you go through Shreveport, Louisiana, it's the worst interstate you'll ever ride in your life. You want to talk about pothole city? Y'all ride down I-20 and go through Shreveport, Louisiana. It's good, but you can't even talk on the phone. It's that often you hit a pothole. All right, so that's something we all share. Anybody who's ever driven from Monroe, Louisiana, all right, to Dallas, Texas, knows what I'm talking about. All right, so there's some humor, but it's real. We all share. If you drive that interstate, freeway, whatever you want to call it out west, when you drive that interstate, we all share that. So there has to be something there. All right, so we had to go through this clean out, top to bottom. Unfortunately, this time around, because so many on the bottom don't know the language, the verbiage, and didn't know the links, and didn't know there was a wolves in sheep's clothing. They didn't realize that everybody been psyoped and fighting against race and religion and politics, our core values of America. What makes us different actually makes us stronger. Uh, so they pinned us, the deep state, and they've benefited, Republican and Democrat. They've benefited from that. And that's what President Trump, and that's why I love what he said the other day. He said, other people have passion at doing certain things. He said, my passion is making deals. And so the ones who hate it, he loves it even more. So see, that's the thing. And when he says, for all of you wanting justice, look, I get it. But when you root for death, there's a very razor line difference. You gotta look at this humanitarian. If you're rooting for death and you're rooting for hanging and rooting for executions, you're rooting for it like that. You got to look at yourself too. All right, because how did we get here? See, everybody wants an end result, but nobody wants to see how we got here. All right, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with punishment on the front end, we won't let it get to the like all the festering it got to. Now, I'm all about justice, but see, what I still, the way I believe, and I may be wrong, I'm subject to be wrong. I'm human. I'm a male. Come on, ladies. I'm a male, but I'm subject to be wrong. But I look at it from the standpoint of, why aren't people appreciating what you're going through right now? And then when the justice comes, let it come. All right. Live every day as you're living it. Let the day get here. But right now, enjoy the liberals crying. All right. Especially the ones that paint themselves as evil. Let them cry. Have fun with that right now, because you're going to get there. But what President Trump, what it looks like that they've done, which is, again, when even if you're in secret military, even if you're an operator, if you're not in that upper chamber of operators, the ones who put the plan together, you can still speculate where you're going and still not know. See, a lot of people do that. When someone that claims to be secret military and or whatever it is, if you think they are, and they say, well, I don't really know that answer, a lot of people will jump ship with that. And that's not the case. When you're in the military, you don't know what the generals have in plan unless you work with a unit and you work with the general and or the colonel, and you get to see something like that or be around that talk. But even then, you're not going out there publicizing that, putting that on a podcast. All right. So what it looks like with the Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3, where we are, when President Trump says this, retribution will come through success. What they're doing right now is they got to desynthesize the nation as much as possible. The warrior mentality. No matter how many are kicking, cussing, screaming, yelling, hate, mockery, ridicule, whatever they're doing to President Trump on social media, they can't get to him. They're not going to harm him. The assassination, quote unquote, you got to understand special operations, unconventional warfare, all that was planned. There's a court case that proves it. And then also the special operations publications, et cetera, proves that. But that's not what this is about, this podcast. But when you know that, that's there. No one can touch him. He's fine. You don't have to worry about him. All the people out there, I still get messages. I hope he's okay. But he's the most protected man on the planet in the history of the planet. And no one's going to get to him. All right. This is all a plan. So when people say that, if you're still in that mindset, or your friend or family member are, you still don't know that this is a strategic operation. And what you thought was a quote unquote assassination wasn't. It's all part of unconventional warfare. It's all outlined in it. All right. So getting back. So when he says retribution will be our success, when they desynthesize and they have the warrior mentality of, hey, let's save as many as we can like this. Because winning, when you really think about that comment, you're going to win so much you're going to get tired of it. Well, that's Alabama football fans are like, well, hey, we know about that because we're hated by everybody. We have the most college football national championships of all time. And people are, y'all cheated. Well, if we cheated, y'all cheated. All right. So same thing. But let's just go on a basis, just a neutral basis. The Georgia Bulldog fans just left the room right now. There's probably a few of them that left. Auburn fans just left. They all just left. Right. Let's have some fun with it. But winning, you'll get tired of winning. How can you get tired of winning? There's no way to get tired of it. All right. I love to win. All right. You should love to win. So when you hear that and then you apply the retribution will be our success, Well, that goes back to his deals. That goes back to eliminating the taxes. That goes back to Doge, the tariffs, et cetera, bringing all the money back in, eliminating the debt. And then also it goes into when everybody sees that, the ones who are capable of a brain, what they're going to see takes time, right? Because if we ever shortcutted anything, guess what the liberals will do? You guys cheat. They don't have a foundation, so they call cheating whatever is. If the scenario is on the left side, they make it right. If it's on the right side, they make it left. They don't have a foundation, but they'll bark the loudest. And if we ever go against the foundation that's being reset, if you shortcut it, then guess what goes out the window? Integrity, ethics, morals, principles, core values, accountability, responsibility. And then we wouldn't have anything to stand on. And then everything that we had gone through to get to that point would do what? Go out the window. So everything had to be done through a process. And they've reset everything. And then when the gas starts keep going down, when all the costs going down, and when everything starts rolling in, then all those people are going to hide. Then what they're going to actually do is, because most of them are on social media anyway, it's easy to delete a profile. It's easy to make a new name, right? It's easy to say, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's not easy for pride-wise, but they could still do it, theoretically. All right. Well, that group of people who are hating, ridicule, mocking, all those people, they'll either come on board or they'll disappear. And then they'll resurface somewhere down the road, and they'll be the biggest President Trump fan you've ever met in your life, kind of like Alabama football fans. I'm the biggest Alabama football fan you ever met in your life. How many national championships do we have? I don't know. That don't matter. I'm just the biggest. It'll be them. I'll pick on my own people. All right, I'll do that. If we got them, we all got them. But when you're good and you win a lot, you have a lot more what? Bandwagon fans, because of what? Because you're winning, right? There's not a lot of bandwagon Auburn fans. Sorry, Auburn fans. Y'all ain't got a lot of bandwagon fans because y'all don't win a lot like Alabama. So when you apply it that way, you get to average everyday American. Well, when President Trump wins, everybody's going to want to what? Be a part of that. All right. Nobody wants to be a part of a losing team or a program. So when you look at retribution, you look at those comments, when we get to a place when people are celebrating and they're seeing more and more unveiled, and they're seeing all the dirty this and the, look at Vince Vaughn coming out. Look at, here's a guy. Look, now I thought he was always a good guy and conservative because he used to ride in my aunt's taxi in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Had a taxi service that she owned on her own, not a big company. He always called her. All right, when he was drunk, he always called her, and before she passed. And so I always knew and had an inclination he was conservative. But when all the liberals' heroes start falling and they start coming over for President Trump, when all these people do it, and that's what's going to happen, the dominoes will start falling. When that happens, all their heroes are going to be gone. So then you're going to find out how much of integrity they have to stand on their own 2 feet and go, I hate President Trump, all this stuff. So we're going to see what kind of integrity they have. Then when it's 85 percentile of this nation, maybe 90, but let's just say 75% to 90% of this nation have flipped to the winning portion and loving what's going on, then President Trump and the groups can unveil the dirt, as the saying is. Because that group of people then will be what? You got, in order to accept something, you got to be receptive to it. And right now, all liberals are not accepting of anything. And they're not even receptive of it. All right. And this was never a Republican or conservative and or just patriot movement alone from the standpoint of the people who just want to win and, oh, we got to keep our guns and that. No, it's also all Americans. So in order to see justice, you need to wait till a little bit. That's what I feel they're doing with it. Because when he says that, Well, when he says
Gotta let it
retribution
play
will be
out.
our well, when he says retribution will be our success, a lot of when you win, there was a coach at Colorado State, and like he said, when you go to a college like Colorado State, not in Alabama, not a Georgia, not a Notre Dame, not a Michigan, not a Southern Cal, not a big name, when you go to a place like that, he said, guess what still applies? The same thing it does at Alabama and Michigan and Notre Dame, where you all in Ohio State, where all eyes are always on you. He said, same thing applies. Winning takes care of everything. When you win, people want to be a part of it. When you're winning and you're winning and you're winning and you're going to your division or conference championship and you're going to the dance, the big dance, people want to be a part of winning. So see, when you do
It's
that,
like
then say it again.
real quick, everybody in the beginning, it's they got to take the wins how they're coming. They're big, small, whatever they are. People are missing the greatest time to be alive right now, staying in the noise. You got to get out of that noise because we are winning. Just because you don't see it, we're winning a lot, everybody. So you got
Well,
to
the
hang
reason
on to
why I use
the
well, the reason
wins.
why I use football too is this reason. I'm an undergrad graduate of Alabama. I did my master's at Colorado State. The reason why I use that is that this you don't. It's that old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. The song. Well, but when you go through something and then you look back, you're like, dang, that wasn't that bad, or dang, that was fun, or dang, that was awesome. I want to do that again. Like, but did you enjoy it while you were doing it? And Alabama football is a great example of that. No matter what you feel about college football, rigged or not, whatever, leave that aside for a moment. Just assume that it's not. Assume that it was, it's just a tough, uh, you know, channel and conference, or not conference, but league. Let's just go with that. Look at Nick Saban. The average Alabama fan now that he's gone, and then the rough year they had this year straight out the gate, all right, now what are they doing? If you're just an average college football fan, Alabama fan, you're going, oh man, it's they're like, well, when are we ever going to win a national championship again? But did they look at what Nick Saban did in 11 years? Did they realize he won 6 national championships, right, in just a little tiny span? Did they appreciate those, right? Oh, they'll tell you, oh, that was fun, but did they appreciate it? All right. So see, when you don't know what you got till it's gone, applies when you're winning, you're loving it, right? And you're, oh man, yeah, we won again, yeah, we won a championship, yeah, we won. Well, then when it's gone,
Derrk, Derrk, real quickly, I've got to end this. I got another show I got to do. I'm co-hosting with somebody, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I've got to. It's in about the next 10-15 minutes. I got to run over there.
well, yeah, I kind of thought it'd be about 8:30,
What time is it? What time are we now?
8:15.
6:15 my time. So you're 8:15. All right, go ahead and finish. I'll let them know I'm running a little bit late.
Well, it's just people need to appreciate where we are. And in order to do that, you got to know what person, who's in command, and what are they working with. And like I say, I stress this so much to people, and I know people think, oh, but see, people end up looking at a lot of negative comments. They look at the others out there, the clickbait. You don't even need that. All you need is the military plan, and the only way they could have done this lawfully is via the military. So when you hear, if you are a Q person, if you are fully awake, when you hear military is the only way, it's saying the unconventional warfare, the overthrow the government. The only way to do it lawfully is as a whole militarily. All right, and it required something that would activate the military. All right. And now you're seeing Fox News had it on today, because I know someone who still watches Fox, and I saw it on their TV when I walked in the door. All right. And they're talking about the lab leak. Now the truth about COVID's coming out. It only took 5 years, but that's the way we operate. If you don't want crap to take 5 years, guess what people need to do? Know what the commander's using, know what the president's using, and then we can get through this stuff a lot quicker than normal. All right. So, or the old normal. All right. So little things like that. And I guess what I still look at, and we were talking about this, the general, all of us, because John Michael Chambers put this panel together where we do this once a month, all military and only military, is that, okay, you know, military, we're not better than you. I tell people all the time, you don't have to be a veteran to know what's going on, but military is the only way, was the only way, and it's the only way to do it lawfully. Not as a coup, in a bad coup, but in a, hey, our government got hijacked by a bunch of wahoos that don't know what they're doing, but also they were doing this, 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 and this. Every war from Korea forward was an offensive war. It wasn't a defensive. There's a huge difference. All right, Abraham Lincoln's the one who added both foreign and domestic to the oath. The foreign he was talking about wasn't foreign going to Iraq, going to Afghanistan. The foreign he was talking about was foreign actors coming here trying to take what we got. Not just our own people, but foreign actors coming here, foreign adversaries. So see, look at that little simple thing that your average veteran don't even know. Don't even know the origins of the oath, what it started as and what was added through the years. So little things like that. But for the civilians, the 94 percentile, if you want to love President Trump more, if you want to love the military more, then you got to look at all aspects of the military and then think, maybe there's just something that you don't know and you can know. I heard a preacher say this, and I'll close with this, but I heard a preacher say this not long ago to an atheist, saying, look, I'm not here to, the atheist had an issue with the preacher. The preacher said, I don't have an issue with you. You can believe what you want to believe. I don't have an issue. And they go, well, why do you believe? And he goes, well, now you're asking me why I believe in God. So you're curious to know. And what he did to him, he said, look, have you ever thought that maybe there's just something about God that you don't know about? So that's what I do to people out there is say, look, maybe there's just something about the military you don't know about. If you're so focused on what I didn't do that you did do, if you're so focused on putting me down, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a veteran. If I'm your brother in arms, then I'm always your brother in arms. All right. If I got a different opinion than you, okay. But if there's something that is on paper that is outside of mine and your conversation to do with gay, Buddhist, atheist, whatever that, if there's something bigger, liberating the world, liberating a nation, there's an order in place. And that order is a reflection of the true liberation and the true definition of what we do. And you're calling me a name saying that I can't do this because I didn't do that and this, that, and that. If you're doing that, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So isn't there maybe something about President Trump you don't know? Is there something about the Constitution maybe you don't know, or the Declaration, or the Foundation, or so? See, the whole operation taking place is unconventional for a reason. It wasn't going to be publicized until they were ready for it, and so President Trump knew that. He knew what he was taking on, and he knew the end results would be coming down the road, and the praise would come down the road. But he wasn't doing it for praise, but he knew that the long-term goal and versus the short-term effects is worth it. All right, so history is going to write about it. I've already written part of it in the books, obviously, but history and what they tell, the intricacies of it, the missions, etc. Whenever all the other stuff comes, that'll come down the road, and then you'll have a book there in place that says, "I already knew what was going on." So that's why I tell veterans, hey, the more badges you have, the more ribbons you have, the more medals you have, the longer your DD 214 is, and you're saying this ain't happening or you're against President Trump, the worse you're going to look. And I don't want that to happen to you. But I am that veteran also that's saying, hey, look, you, what's going to look even worse is that the little boot kicker that you say couldn't know and did know, who's kicking you in the butt, it's going to look even worse that I was the one kicking you in the butt, all right, trying to nudge you to step up right now and to stand up because you're misleading Americans with that attitude. All right. And Americans are going to look at you and look at the whole percentage of whatever it ends up being that didn't know what was going on and go, how were you in the military 20 something years and you didn't know what was going on? You don't want that, veterans, if you're that veteran. So now's the time to stand up. Now is your time to keep your oath outside of service. And for civilians, you have the same obligation, though, as a civilian from another manner. You're the domestic side of it, especially, but you have the same. If you love President Trump, if you love our military, they are most certainly working with a special operation. And your National Guard and your reserve component active orders from federalization orders is a huge difference in federalization. Those Title 10 is presidential only. That's it. And when there's all these orders that are in place, and you have your New York National Guard and your Texas, all the 14 states that went to Texas, and the only order in place for those operations are from March 27, 2020, that more than outlines your fallback, your safety net. That more than outlines there is a special, unique operation going on. And you can know about it if you will remove your emotions, divorce your feelings, divorce your emotions, divorce what you thought you knew, divorce. I don't care if you or your daddy, your mama, your auntie, your uncle, whoever, I don't care if they were a general. If they don't know what is in place right now, those specific, unique laws and orders, they can be just as lost as anybody. And I'll take up for the veterans from this standpoint as well, is that most veterans get out and they brain dump everything because they've done their service, they've done their time, and they want to go relax, kick back. They made it through it. They didn't get, Lord bless them, they didn't die, take the ultimate sacrifice. They want to go hiking, they want to go fishing, they want to travel. Most of them don't look at anything, and that's fine. It's the ones, though, that bring the attitudes. And I mean, 85% of veteran suicide, this is very important. 85% of veteran suicide that you see all these veterans, the ones who have even put me down, they got all over their pages the 1-800 suicide hotline for veteran suicide. But in the background, they're calling me all kinds of names, try to steal stuff from me, etc., blackmail me, etc. I bring that up for a reason because if it happens to me, it happens to others. But what if I was that person who was weak? What if I was that mind that was weak? So why do they ostracize me and go, well, you've got a notable name, or you're a notable person, or you're a whatever the words you want to use, but you're popular. Oh, so because I have a platform and because people listen, oh, it's okay to talk about me. What if I was that person that became a statistic? Are they going to post their hotline then? What's that hotline mean then? Where's the integrity in that? 85% of veteran suicide never saw hostility. And of the portion that left letters or was on the phone before they committed this horrible, I mean, I don't even know what you call it, incident, because once your life's gone, it's gone. But of the percent, there's a percentage of those who leave letters or on the phone. It said it was because their veteran counterparts made them feel that their service was invaluable. Man, that's a hell. That hell, by all definition, that is a hell of a weight to tote around. If you're any kind of veteran and you let that apply, if you're someone who has belittled anybody, and I have women who follow me, lots of them who have come to me in private, person, not like private like that, because Lord have mercy, the haters, they take that too. But I've had them come to me and tell me that my husband was a this in the military and he belittled me. He told me I was crazy. And I ain't talking about like laughing and joking. We're talking about being serious. And I'm talking about a bunch of them. We ain't talking about just a handful. That's military industrial complex. We have to break that as well. And it sucks that Americans are learning about military industrial complex and that not all leaders have been leaders, and you've seen 270 plus commanders relieved of duty since June 2017, but that's where we are. And it's like President Trump said, we're a patriot party, but we're the party of common sense. And the Patriot Party is not Republican. It's not conservative. We are typically made up of that fabric, but it's a complete separate thing. Meaning that, look, we want you in the Patriot Party if you have these values. But that's what everybody's witnessing. And so it's important for people to hear that, because that's how you know what someone's operating with. Is no different than your friends or your family. What do you judge them by? How they treat you on a daily basis. Now, people are due for a bad day, yes, but how they treat you on a daily basis It's how you judge people. So you judge them by their what? Their fruits that they bear. Like the Bible says, you judge a tree by the fruit it bears. But then you have compassion if they slip up, mess up, depending on what it is, how big it is. But that's what everybody has to apply. And that's where we are. But enjoy it. Enjoy this ride, because it's, thank God we ain't going to go through this again, not in our lifetimes. All right. And I don't want your great grandchildren to have to go through it. So therefore, in order for that to happen, Native American speaking, is we have to make sure that all the younger generations are knowing what they need to know, not drama, not propaganda, not belittling and not degrading someone because, oh, you didn't see what I saw and you didn't do what I did, therefore you can't know. No, your Department of Education is right between your ears. All right. And you can fill it with what you want to fill it with. But I highly recommend, if you love President Trump in the military, seek to know what President Trump's working with. And that's already in the book. All right. If you can't afford the book, guess where it is? All over my social media, the same content. So when you hear people call me a grifter, right? Well, tell them how's he got the same free content all over Facebook and Telegram? Same stuff. You just have to piece it together. The book has it all in one location, but it's all over the same pages. So see, that's how you separate all the riffraff, and then you apply it to your life. And then you'll be able to do what? Go fishing more, go hiking more, go skydiving, whatever you're doing. But I'm going to close with this term, like my cousin said. I wish I could say his name because he deserves it. But President Trump is the pilot. He's the face. All right. The aircraft's already taken off. Landing is mandatory. Landing's mandatory. So if you want to know what President Trump's working with and how he's going to land the plane, then you need to go read and study, because you can already have a foresight vision of what's going to take place if you know what he's working with. And we're all on the same plane. We all own it. And this
Amen.
plane ain't got. And this plane ain't got no. Guess what? This plane ain't got no parachutes. This plane ain't got no parachutes because you ain't jumping off. No, we're gonna hold you on there. See, that's how that works.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Derrk. I love just listening to you and all your knowledge that you give. And everybody, like Derrk says, go get his book. I mean, he outlines it in there for you. It's great information. And, hang on to these wins, because, we are winning. A lot of great things is happening. Just because we're not seeing it doesn't mean it's not happening. So, and stay out of the noise. Stay out of the noise. There are the legit people out there like Derrk giving the right, good information. And then there are those ones that are just trying to feel relevant. And that's what we're here for. Myself, Derrk, Captain Kyle, and all the other ones that we're bringing on as guests. We're trying to give you the legitimate information. So you got to tighten up that circle, everybody. Stick and stay with the ones that haven't led you wrong through your journey here. And I'm definitely telling you, listen to Derrk, because he's giving it to you. He's not reinventing the wheel. He's just breaking it down for people to maybe understand more and be easier maybe to go read it than read the executive orders. So Derrk's here every 2 weeks, everybody, every other week. So if you guys want to come back and visit with Derrk, well, listen to Derrk because he gives great information. We'll see you in two weeks, Derrk.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and then maybe next time you come, you can give us an update on your speaking engagements, unless you have any updates right now. Are you still doing that or not?
So so I'll be in Miami at the Trump Doral at the end of this week, but the event is May the 1st to the 3rd, and then I'll be in Provo, Utah. I do have a flyer up for that. Provo, Utah, May the 24th. I think it's the actual date of it. It's the 23rd and 24th, but I have that flyer up on Telegram and all my other pages. And then May the 20, I think it's, I can look real fast because I have it right here, but it's the 28th. I don't have the flyer yet, but I do believe it's going to be public as well. So I'll post that when I get it.
Where's that at? Is that the one in
And
Idaho?
so May 23rd and 24th, I'll be in Utah, and then May 27th, 28th, I'll be in Eagle, Boise.
Boise. All right. Well, send me those flyers. I'll put them on my wall and I'll share them on my X space too. So, or X feed over there. So we can get that information
And
out
then
there for everybody.
I'm casually going to California, even though I don't have anything lined up. But sometimes when I'm out that way, people will hear about it and they'll line something up. But I will be in California for leisure. So if you see a black Corvette roll right by you, my buddy lets me drive his Corvette all the time. And if you just see like this blur like that, it's going to sound like that. Zoom! That's me and his Corvette. So thank God that
Right.
he
Let me
has
know.
that. Thank God he has that kind
Let
of
me know.
insurance.
I'll get my Camaro SS and I'll race you.
Hey, thank God he has the insurance, but I'm a good driver. But yeah, it's fun.
I got a jam. I got to get over to this co-hosting. They're asking me where I'm at. So God bless you, Derrk. Thank you so much for everything you do. Keep up the great work. And we'll see you here in 2 weeks. And everybody come back on Wednesday. We'll have Alpha Warrior over here and then, oh, not here, but over on my X spaces. And then also Silk from the Diamond and Silk Show. So with that, everybody, God bless. Derrk, have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a blessed evening, everybody, and happy Easter, even though it was yesterday.
Yeah, happy belated Easter, everybody. God bless. Have a great night. Thanks, Derrk.
We'll see you.